that one, and Rek'Sai being removed here from immunity, and the Chiefs look like they've elected here for the red side.
And the statistic, 12 out of 13 is now the ratio, of course, as Sion is banned away from Swiper once again.
Ridiculous.
It seems like a champion that Ryu could play. You know, he's mostly been playing since he came into the team, the likes of Maokai. The statistic actually that came through, 5 out of 6 games where Maokai's been available to be picked, it's either been picked or banned away from Ryu. So either he gets it or it's taken away. There's only one time when Maokai was available where they did not select that champion. So a high priority on Maokai coming through for both these teams. Remember, Swiper, when he's not getting Sion, he's going for Maokai.
Yeah, we have heard around the traps that maybe the Chiefs are switching up their playstyle, but we'll see whether they're going to bring it out this time, as Kalista going to be taken away from Radier here as well. Not going to want to see him on that sort of dominating late game champion who can just get so much AoE work done. Morgana, so much respect for T-Gun.
That is a really big respect ban. Again, he kind of unsettled the Direwolves with his roam on that champion, even not necessarily picking up Binding at level 1, just going for pressure ganks, and he did all the work and now gets the respect ban. It's been such a weird season for T-Gun. You were like, came into this season thinking, all right, Thresh, Blitzcrank, hooks only, and then Janna and Morgana. Of course, Morgana does have a bit of the aggressive flavors. The Shaco hover always makes us happy.
Maybe not.
One day.
Yeah.
One day. But look who's made it through the picks and bans. Sejuani is available. This is patch 5.6. Her Northern Winds W, the damage that she does, has been toned down a little bit, but still high priority. And this gives over some instant replies. Sivir and Janna instantly locked in.
Yeah, and so Rosie's sort of most successful champion here as well, who has played the most here in the OPL. She's going to lock away that Janna and the Sivir that you were talking about. So contested, taking away first opportunity that the Chiefs get.
I mean, the Chiefs 4-0. Of course, they have a lot of undefeated champions, given that they've won 13 out of 14 games. But 4-0 on Janna, 10.2 KDA. Rosie has done amazing things on the Janna. Sivir also undefeated for this team. And you're taking Sivir away from Uberbro. This is a big win, I think, in those first 2 picks. Because Sejuani's been pretty hit or miss in the OPL, we've found, even after her 5.5 changes. And Sivir and Janna have done a whole lot of winning recently.
Yeah, and Sivir also fantastic at dealing with that Sejuani as well. That Glacial Prison can just be spell shielded, and your Sivir is going to be A-okay. Just wanders out of it, no trouble at all. But we'll see whether Zahi can make good use of it, because of course Sejuani's still just a powerful force, and that Cinderhulk has made her a whole lot stronger.
That's a couple of supports.
That is a couple of supports. Could be a top lane Lulu, could be a mid lane Lulu. Most likely in the mid there, but there's probably not going to be a Kog'Maw coming through from the Chiefs, and I wonder what is the plan here for immunity.
I mean, it's screaming Kog'Maw, isn't it? This is, we've seen so many times around the scenes. We've seen the Juggernaut come through a few times. Nami and Lulu, it's shouting Juggernaut to me. It doesn't lock you into it. Picking up Lulu early in the drop makes so much sense. Such a flexible champion. 3 lanes she can go into. Hell, she's a decent jungler. Not going to see that in competitive too much.
Maybe
but
not.
honestly, her jungling is fine. It is always a flexible option. We saw the AP Lulu come up. I believe the Type A Assassins once upon a time played that in the AD carry role. So, look, anything can happen with Lulu. It also takes away the potential from Juggernaut from your opponents. They didn't need to do that here as Sivir was locked in. And I see your surprise. We've been wondering, would the dragon come through? We thought it would be Minky Whale, but the dragon's locked in.
Yeah, and Minkiewell, of course, out of the competition now, so Swiper needs to pick up the huge dragon mantle, and he's going to be taking that one most likely into the top lane, unless we're going to see a resurgence of the Elise top, which was, of course, once upon a time fairly popular.
It's going to be Shyvana top Atlas, but the bigger point here, this is a return to Elise for Spook. Spook's a very noted Elise player. It was Elise and Lee Sin only a couple of years ago. Of course, had to move away from the Elise as everyone else did, just with all the nerfs, but she's been tweaked quite a bit on this patch, notably in her ranged form, movement speed slightly down, but in the spider form, 355 base move speed. That's the same as Master Yi and Pantheon. That's the fastest you can be of any melee champion in the game. So Elise, we all know about it. She still falls off a little bit in the late game, but so much early pressure going to come through from that Elise. You're waiting for this. It could be what you want.
It is. It is. We've got a Lulu top lane, ladies and gentlemen, and the Swain is in the mid lane, and if they can't get it on the hunt, you may as well just whimsy it.
But this is exactly what we thought Immunity would do. I've said this the last few times we saw Immunity play. It's been like, okay, Swain is 2-0 for this team. We have not seen Swain in a suspiciously long time, and what better time to bring it out than in your first game of this best of 5. And it's a champion that, honestly, no one's practiced against Atlas. You don't see a lot of Swain mid. See a little bit of Swain top, still unpopular there. You don't see a lot of Swain mid, and this is Cheese, someone who came onto the scene 3 years ago, 4 years ago as a Swain-only player. Of course, has grown that champion pool, as you can see from his MVPs on multiple champions.
Oh, and the Xerath ban already.
The Xerath banned already. Seeing respect otherwise, people don't ban away the Swain. And finally, the nibble has come true and he's locked it in.
Oh my goodness, and we'll see whether the Chiefs...
the meta's gone crazy, Atlas.
This is a little bit strange. The bird has been hovered and locked in now from Rosie. So we're going to have a Nivea versus Swain, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're asking for consistent damage dealers, I'd say that both of them fit that role fairly well. But one thing I wanted to mention is the fact that that's Swain a brilliant Ahri blocker pick as well.
Absolutely. Ahri struggles a lot against Swain. She wants to go for that assassination. You turn on your ultimate. You can sustain through it in a lot of cases. Turn around. The consistent damage from Swain is deceptive. And you have to wonder, who is this Juggernaut comp really for? Because, I mean, throwing a Whimsy onto Swain has much the same flavor as throwing a Whimsy onto Kog'Maw. The positioning will be interesting, but there's a lot of synergies between this comp. I do like the Anivia locker. Anivia's been sitting the LCK a little bit. Faker bringing it out for SK Telecom. The big situation there, the wall. If you separate the right people away, whether it's the Kog'Maw, whether it's the Swain, DPS one down, you could really unsettle a lot of what this comp is doing.
I'm very, very excited to get this one underway. But just for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to throw it back out to pastry time.
Thank you very much, Atlas. And I'm here with Choo Choo's, of course, the mid laner from Legacy. Choo Choo's, thanks for coming by. How you feeling?
I'm good, thanks. It's
Yeah.
good to be here, yeah.
Yeah, good. How are you feeling after yesterday? I know you said you were a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't... Definitely disappointed that we lost, but, we gave it our best shot.
Awesome, and of course, thank you for being here after that loss, but very exciting game to start things off here.
Yeah.
I know you're a mid lane player, so let's start there with a natural place. We have a doozy of a mid lane here to kick things off. Swain on one side for Cheese, and of course, Swivel playing Anivia.
Yeah, I mean, Swain's just a comfort pick for Cheese. I think it's a great pick, especially for game one versus them. I feel like it was really difficult for Swiffer to pick a good champion into that composition with Swajani, especially Swain, since Cheese is so good on that. So I think Anivia is a really safe pick, which can definitely scale, which can match Swain. So,
what is it about Swain that maybe makes it unsafe for Swiffer to pick maybe an assassin like Ahri, which was open? Yeah,
I mean, Swain's just a great lane bully. And if you pick something like Ahri, Swain can punish Ahri because... Swain's constant damage throughout every lane, level 1, up to level 6. Ahri's going to struggle. So with Anivia, she can just farm, play safe till she hits level 6, and then she can just use her ultimate and eventually just stay so far away from Swain that he can't get punished.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So kind of moving through the rest of it as well. We mentioned a little bit while we were looking at Champ Select that the jungle matchup interests you. So Sejuani, the first pick for the immunity there. What do you think of the pick? I know you guys have been playing it a bit as well.
I think Sejuani's a great pick at the moment. Honestly, Chiefs responded with Siva Janna, which suggests that they're trying to initiate on them, but they also pick Janna for disengage. So they're working for sort of both sides of Sejuani. That Sejuani can initiate a fight, then you have the Janna ult to sort of disengage, and then you have the Siva to engage on them. So I feel like it was a strong first pick, but Chiefs responded really well.
Awesome. And kind of moving through as well. Obviously, Kog'Maw there as well. Very telegraphed pick. When you pick Lulu Nami, you're generally going to tell the opponents that, hey, we kind of want to play Juggernaut. Swain, not another supportive mid laner like something like maybe Orianna. What do you think of the pick with the rest of the team comp? Especially, I mean, have you guys played a lot of Kog'Maw? I don't think you have. Not recently.
Well,
maybe not in public.
Maybe not in public, but we've definitely played it a couple of times. I actually really like the Kog'Maw pick here because they have Shyvana. That's pretty much all they can get on. They've got Elise, but Elise struggles to get onto Kog'Maw. And they've got Nami, which can just self-peel, herself as well as Kog'Maw. And I think having Swain just in front of the Kog'Maw is such a threat. You have to deal with that Swain. You can't just leave him alone and run past him to get to the Kog'Maw. So I feel like the Kog'Maw was a good pick.
Yeah, and Elise, of course, definitely a favorite of Carvin, of your jungler. I've seen him play that multiple times. I think he even played it in the OPL. What do you think of the pick now? Because barely no one is playing the jungler anymore.
It was definitely a shock. I definitely did not expect Spooks to pick that one. I feel Elise is definitely going to help Anivia get through the early game versus the Swain, but I don't know how it's going to deal with this Kog'Maw.
Fair enough. I mean, if you're in this mid lane, obviously always have to worry about jungle pressure. Do you think that either Sedge or Elise has particularly something for either Cheese or Swift to be worried about? Or if you were playing either of these lanes, would you feel very safe?
I feel Spooks is really strong early, and with a champion like Elise, he can do a lot of work. So that's something which Immunity has to take in mind. Swajani can just scale. I reckon Swajani can definitely match Elise's early game pressure, but I think Spooks has the upper hand when it comes to mid lane pressure.
Fair enough. And moving to the top lane then just quickly. Lulu, of course, the flex pick, which you mentioned when we were discussing the champ select. But what do you think of the matchup? Because Swiper, is on a very different champion as well, playing Shyvana for the first time in 2 years.
Exactly. That's I don't have any idea. I mean, Lulu's just a safe laner. Shyvana scales. Like, Minky's been known to be like a Shyvana main. So, I mean...
One of you guys a pretty important tournament, apparently.
Exactly. So I reckon Shyvana definitely outscales Lulu, and I'm still just worried. I just don't know how Chiefs can get onto this Kog'Maw with Shyvana.
All right, well, we're going to have to find out. We're going to get into the game. Let's throw it straight back to our casters.
Thank you very much, Pacer Time, and Choo Choos, of course, for that fantastic insight. And Papa Smithy, we have got a massive game on our hands. I cannot wait to see more Swain. Of course, I've mentioned the Promised Land before, but this is Swain with a Kog'Maw as well. T-Gun on Nami. He hasn't done that this season. Ugh, I just don't even know.
I mean, Atlas, we spent that whole time, you guys were watching Choo Choos and Page Time talk with big smiles on our faces because there's so many interesting picks. I can't even dissect all of them. My job as a color caster got so hard when Elise makes her triumphant return finally. Still the same champion in a lot of ways, but even better at early game, which is a scary thing to consider. This is going to be some amazing first game for this series.
Yeah, and let's get into it right away, ladies and gentlemen, with Immunity taking on the Chiefs for our first game of the night, the first game of this semi-final. And both teams spreading out. Of course, Chiefs staying together just a little bit here, and we'll see whether they can get something happening early. And Papa Smithy, what do you think about a potential lane swap here? Because, of course, Nami, terrifying early on.
You can tell with both teams in a 5-man group, actually, it's just the Chiefs, but they're looking for aggressive vision. That suggests to me a lane swap. You need complete information to be able to pull off a lane swap. And also there's the consideration of Swiper. He's on a champion like Shyvana. When we see him play Sion, what is he famous for? Getting those aggressive level 1 camps and porting to lane. Already showed that he's leveled up the W first, the burnout. It has the potential to take a camp at level 1, does 20% bonus damage to monsters. Go to the Wolves, go to the Raptors, whichever one you decide, and smash down that camp.
Yeah, and we've been waiting for Shyvana to make her return here as well. Of course, had a slight buff on her E at the same time, is a little bit better at doing that percentage damage if she lands that one in a team fight as well. So does have considerably more damage available, and when you've got Ryu buffing up the health values of a target, having that little bit of more shred is going to be really helpful.
I mean, the Bammy Cinder also is a consideration for Shyvana. She always had good wave clear with the burnout in lane, but maxing the burnout, then picking up the Bammy Cinder for that Sunfire-esque AoE burn, it's just even more wave clear. And this is against Lulu, a champion who usually has the most wave clear possible in the lane. It's going to be wave clear battles, whether it's a 1v1 or 1v2, you know, the delayed 1v1 around level 5 or level 6. We're just watching how things are. We're seeing Zahi starting actually on the Wolves. And otherwise standard lanes. No, actually no, the lane swap has come through.
Yeah, and we'll see whether Swiper gets donated those Krogs, but the lane swap has continued, so a little bit of teaming up in order to take down these ones, and Chiefs actually heading over to the enemy blue buff here as well after taking those Krogs, so not quite hitting level 2 just yet, and Rosie just chilling out. He'll start that one off for his jungler in top lane.
In the mid lane though, we're seeing multiple members coming on top of this Anivia. She has to flash away. That's actually a pretty significant factor. Forcing Anivia's flash. Very immovable, low base health champion.
Yeah.
That's a big win early for Immunity.
That is huge, and you have to think that T-Gun probably going to make a return there to the mid lane. Of course, loves to be ganking early, and it seems that even now that he's on the Nami, of course, not with quite that much sort of level 1 things to offer. Doesn't matter. I mean, he's more than happy to gank as a Morgana level 1.
I mean, the big thing to consider is that Immunity actually won out in terms of the first camp starter. Because remember, this is a vertical jungling situation. The red team has initiated a lane swap. Chiefs are on the top of the map. Theoretically, every camp on the top side of the map should go to the Chiefs. But Immunity started on the Wolves, now have gone to the enemy blue. They've got an extra camp, an extra little bit of experience, and they're waiting for that repeat gank on Chiefs River. He's known to play aggressively. He's on the Anivia, and they're coming in.
Yeah, T-Gun looking to get something started. Might have been a little bit trigger happy there as they weren't quite able to get anything. Flash Frost is going to pick up that little minion there as well. So Swiffer trying his best to stay up in this farm, but he has to play so far back now without his flash.
I mean, he's got his own backup coming. Spooks is there. Elise still so strong in the early game. She's a bit feast or famine like a at least in to some degree. A little bit less peel in the late game, only has that cocoon, but as you were mentioning actually during the break, the missile speed is faster. We might see it here.
Yeah, the cocoon actually going to land here as well, forcing the flash out of Cheese. So both of these flashes for the mid lane is already gone, and a whole lot of visits to the middle part of the map.
But the moment a repeat wraparound gank comes through, that cocoon comboed into the Anivia Q is a lot of consistency. See, the burst damage from Elise, especially early, is super high. So suddenly both mid laners, it's going to be just a game of chicken. Both of them are going to be sticking under their turrets, waiting for their flashes to come up.
And I like how you use a bird reference here as well when we've got, of course, Swain and Anivia there in the mid lane. Plenty of birds going on this game. We'll see which one's going to have the final word here as Cheese continues to farm things up as best he can. Actually has a slight CS advantage here as Uberbro has a severely hard freeze that the Chiefs are trying their very best to break now.
And T-Gun just re-enters lane, finally hits level 2, been doing a lot of roaming since. They're just trying to cull the wave a little bit, ensure it doesn't push into turret. Spooks and Swiper, they want to push it in, and that's definitely not what Uberbro wants. Oh, the cocoon might have actually been a bit of damage and a bit of pressure, but they avoid it.
Yeah, they do. T-Gun actually looking to try and hold this wave if he can. The Chiefs not going to let it happen here. As actually T-Gun takes them on a merry ride, and he might be able to keep that wave closer to their turret.
It's a very smart move to move upwards and move the wave. Swiffer's low. Remember, he does have that rebirth passive, so with the jungler being around, probably won't fall down, but he's always used to pushing his lane aggressively as the trading continues in bot.
Yeah, really nice sacrifice going to land on a Swiper there as well. Uberbro going to get some barrages onto him as well as Cheese continuing the pressure here in the mid. Swiffer forced to farm with that Q here as well, down 12 CS. That's 2 waves already by 5.5 minutes, and Cheese, we know the pressure he can put on this Swain, and it is no different this game against the high caliber mid laner of Swiffer.
Absolutely. It's an MVP star-studded mid lane battle in general. We see Zahi coming to the top, has the Northern Winds, can still push very aggressively. Radio's going to tank the aggro. They have the shield. The freeze, it's on in both lanes, and no one can break it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see Radio. Their answer to the attempted freeze break is to just try and kill them. And that seems to have worked out relatively effectively as Uberbro and T-Gun, they've actually got their wave pushing up towards the turret now. You can see, as far as that farm is concerned, slight lead for Radia there on the top side, but doesn't really matter too much as these minions are going to fall down as well. Swiper is going to be able to pick up some experience from these ones as well. So far, things going pretty interestingly in the early stages of this game. And we'll see how it all shapes up. Once sort of the next dragon is going to be contested here, or the first dragon, of course, we'll see what has actually happened as Cheese forced to leave the lane yet again, but he's hit level 6. It's going to be pretty difficult to kill this Swain.
I mean, there's still a lot of potential burst damage coming out from Swiffer. A lot of people underrate Anivia's burst. They don't really recall that, of course, if you hit that flash fast, we're talking about 300 base damage nuke coming around at level 9, 1 AP scaling if the enemy team has Frost applied. And if it does a deceptive amount of burst, you more remember her for putting down that ultimate and just keeping turrets up for 30, 40 minutes. The Ziggs impression that she does. In fact, she was Ziggs before Ziggs even existed.
Yeah, she was the
original
Ziggs.
The original stall champion. And with Athene's being buffed on this patch, I'm sure she'll work it in there some way to ensure that we get a nice 60, 70-minute game.
Just ridiculous. Catalysts all around, you have to assume here in the mid lane as Swiffer has completed his 53 CS. Actually, no, Cheese going for his general Cheese way and grabbing the blasting one portion of his Rod of Ages first.
I'm happy that you mentioned that's very standard Cheese play coming through. He's very good at using his passive and getting last hits. His 10 CS up is the big thing to consider. He's very good at getting the mana regen from the passive, from just the Doran ring that he has, and now the Sapphire Crystal he's been able to pick up, and just have the blasting one for a bit more lane presence.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to push Swiffer even harder out of this lane as well with extra mana and, of course, the extra AP there from the Blasting Wand. Only 3 CS behind now is Swiffer, managing to catch up a little bit because Cheese did go back to buy. Ryu going to take a Glitter Lance here on the top lane and continue to try and shove this wave in. Ryu doing a decent job farming that one out as best he can, and Cheese continuing to put on the pressure yet again.
Notable that Maokai was not picked when it was available for a second time here for Ryu. We've seen him almost exclusively on tank champions, so seeing him move to something a little bit different is really interesting to me. He's played, I believe, a Rumble game, and then basically the tanks with a bit of Aurelia thrown in there.
Rumble Scion, yeah.
The mage play is something very, very different for him. Again, this is not really a true Juggernaut comp. We're not seeing basically a Juggernaut that's likely to be at the front of a fight. That's going to be Sejuani or Swain. But they're trying to either bring up the Swain or bring up the Kog'Maw. And honestly, whichever one does better, just throw all those supportive ultimates, that movement speed on, and just see how it goes.
Yeah, and at the moment, Cheese has had a fantastic time in this mid lane. He's set himself up to be that carry Swain that we know that he can be from ages past. Of course, this guy has been a Swain player for so long, as you mentioned, years and years. So we'll see whether he can put on that performance now, because he does tend to just pick up the Swain when he knows that he wants to, when they have a plan for it.
I mean, one of the things to mention here is that what's the best way to deal with Swain but healing Reduckers immunity? They're actually going to be the first ones to start the Dragon. They've been double jungling on the bottom side of the map. They have had control over the bottom side of the map. We would have expected maybe an earlier Dragon, but this is the side of the map that they have access to because, of course, the lane slots come through. Chiefs, Radier and Rosie have been laning at the top, so they pick up the early Dragon. But the point I'm trying to make, Rosie didn't take Ignite. They only have a single Ignite and not necessarily an obvious builder of the Merlanomicon. I mean, and if you could get it, maybe it's low.
Yeah, actually, Swiffer taking a whole lot of damage, but Cheese, he's going to pick up the first blood. Actually, must have already broken that egg previously. It's going to be answered by Spooks, a 1-for-1 trade, but first blood, Cheese is going to say worth.
Yeah, Cheese is going to say worth. Absolutely doesn't have enough gold for Rod of Ages. I don't believe might just have pinged enough. But again, 2 people had to be used to get an equalizing 1-for-1 trade. Immunity, Cheese is already drawing so much pressure to mid, and that will hopefully help Uberbro get that CS up. He's about 20 CS behind his opponent number, Radier, and he needs to get big because, of course, when Kog'Maw hits that one item site, when he finishes the Trinity Force, he's ready to team fight.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and Cheese so very close to that Rod of Ages as well, has picked up boots now on this buy with that Catalyst, so going to have a whole lot more sustain in this lane here as well as that extra damage coming through from the Blasting Wand. Ryu taking a bit of poke here, but Radier just wants to try and get this tower down as quickly as possible because the Chiefs have recognized that if they can't do something about this Swain, then it's going to be a problem.
It's actually quite a late counter swap that's come through. I expected the swap to come through the moment that Swiper had enough gold for Spectre's Cowl, which he does have enough gold for Spectre's Cowl in the ward right now, to try to wrestle a bit more control in the bottom lane. But Elise is pathed over. They're going to pick up the turret and then rotate, which honestly is the gold standard to some degree. So Chiefs, they'll be happy with that.
Yeah, and they, of course, have a lot of pressure in this top side as well with that wave clear to come through. Zahi paying a visit to the bottom side. Swiper, going to keep all of his health and just head back down here as well. Ryu taking a whole lot of damage from Radier as well. That shield buffing up the AD quite a lot, and the Chiefs continue the push. The inner turret now under fire.
And inner turret's taking a lot of damage. No one is rotating to help it. Ryu can't do anything at this point. Kog'Maw's actually stayed in lane in the bottom. A second turret, that was not on the agenda from Immunity. They do not want to be surrendering this inner turret.
Yeah, and there's so many creeps still left over here, but Ryu and T-Gun, they are coming around. Cheese takes a Howling Gale as he pays a visit to this top side, but tower is going to be saved for now for Immunity.
But that health doesn't regenerate, Atlas. That's damage that they've done onto that inner turret. And damage that hasn't been answered, you'd have to think. Swiper's being harassed out, but Kog'Maw's 15 CS behind Sivir. That's a big win early for Chiefs in terms of turret damage, but not necessarily the gold or that structure down. As Swiffer, he's rotated bot.
Yeah, he's actually managed to land the stun here onto Uberbro as well, who's completely out of mana. Has the flash available. I think he's trying to go for a kill here onto Swiper. A Cathian Surprise might be able to do it, but Burnout's there. Swiffer just going to take a bit of damage, and that is a kill lead now for the Chiefs, and we'll see whether Immunity can answer with a turret.
I feel like Uberbro should have turned around, done damage to give himself a chance of getting a kill with a Cathian Surprise. He seemed caught in 2 minds whether he should use his flash, his heal, any of his summoners, and the result is that Shyvana gets away with a kill involvement, has the Spectre's Cowl, so now of course can go lane against Lulu, and the laning bully phase of this Lulu versus Shyvana matchup, it might have passed already.
Yeah, and the full tank Shyvana seems to be the option here for Swiper as well. Sort of his old telltale method of playing that champion was, of course, another one of these players. Of course, Shyvana very, very popular, but Swiper did certainly play a heck of a lot of that.
And look, the base damages are so high that you don't really need to itemize damage. If you feel tanky enough, go for a Blade of the Ruined King. That's a decent option for a 1-item damage build. But in this case, just go for the Spectre's Cowl so you can stand up to what should be a very one-sided lane matchup. You should just be taking free auto attacks, free glitter lances, all the picks harass coming through from Ryu. But of course, if you can delay it, go for the lane swap and then opt in when the Spectre's Cowl give you consistent regen, you feel so much safer.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and you can see now the Chiefs using their Sivir as mostly a wave clear bot here as Swiffer just clears out his in the mid lane as well. That is something to be said about the Chiefs, is the fact that their wave clear is insane.
I mean, between Anivia and Sivir, you're talking about instant wave clear, whereas only Lulu will be able to provide the wave clear from Immunity. She will be building AP, it's not a support Lulu, so they'll have decent wave clear. Swain can do some things as well, but usually has to use his ultimate to be able to proc a lot of that wave clear. Kog'Maw's wave clear, decent, but again, not instant. Instant versus non-instant.
Speaking of instant, Uberbro is going to die instantly there on the bottom side of the map. T-Gun as well taking a whole lot of damage, and Uberbro just getting preyed upon. That was beautifully timed by Spooks.
Spooks was really patient in that situation, waited for the overextend, got the kill. Kog'Maw dying, that undoes a lot of what these Protect the Kog'Maws are all about. And they're going to continue this pushing. Already one turret down, and then most of the health on an inner, and they're going for a second outer.
Yeah, they're doing the very best that they can. As Spook's actually going to head up to this one. The Spiderling's going to tank out a few of those turret shots as well. Not even going to need to as Radiant comes around. Next wave comes in, and this outer turret is going to fall. The second of the game now for the Chiefs. They have the turret advantage, and that's going to equal 2,000 gold in the lead as well.
So this is the second time we've seen the Chiefs face one of these Protect the Kog'Maw-based comps, and this is the second time they've reacted with a lot of early game power, because the way you beat any sort of Kog'Maw comp, any sort of scaling comp, which is what you see when you see multiple supports on a team, then the likes of Kog'Maw, in this case, the Swain, is to out-rotate them, is to break the base early, to get a lot of global objectives down and start to monopolize dragons and other objectives. As Chiefs are going to take a big burst.
So much damage there as well. Another stun to come down, and Chiefs, they just layer it on top of one another, and this could be another outer turret.
Picks upon picks. It could be 3 outer turrets at 15 minutes, which is a very good clip for the Chiefs. Again, remember, this is an Elise versus Sejuani jungle matchup. Sejuani, a very risky jungler early, falls low on her first clear, eventually becomes very powerful, but we're talking about with a couple of items. We've already seen Carbon from Legacy try to get in there with the Sejuani after using the ultimate, and they're just dying to focus fire. A lot of the champions on this immunity side need to scale up till they're relevant, whereas the Chiefs, they've got Elise, who's most powerful in the first 20 minutes of the game, before a lot of resists are available, when her cocoon is usually enough to seal a kill, and between the Flash Frost and the cocoon, anyone who comes near Swift is dying fast.
Yeah, that's the thing, and the burst damage to come through from Sivir as well, that auto attack reset, the boomerang as well, it's so much extra damage onto a stun target when you can guarantee the double boomerang
and
hits.
The auto attack ricochet, that attack cancel you're talking about, there's a lot of squishy members on this team immunity side. They're about focusing all their support on one member. If that member's Sejuani, you have no Whimsy available for Cheese, you have no Whimsy or Ultimate available for Uberbro. It undoes a lot of what the Lulu pick does. So Sivir getting big early, already has the Infinity Edge and the Berserker's Greaves. The rotational play from Cheese, it's buying them advantages across the map.
Yeah, and you can see now Cheese not able to have the same amount of pressure here in this mid lane because the bird just clears out all of the waves instantly, and a whole lot of little birds apparently not quite as good at it.
And that's why Anivia is a good matchup against Swain. It's one, of course, we always remember what the wall can do, theoretically forcing a flash or separating members from their team. But it's instant wave clear against Swain, who takes time to wave clear. So just forcing the wave in is what you want to do. As immunity, they really want to kill Spooks.
Yeah, but the Aqua Prison going to land into Spooks here as well. There's the never move, and the Elise going to use the repel, but nothing really to repel to. Is going to flash out, but the shutdown comes through for Cheese. All 3 of those kills actually amounting to a whole lot of a bounty there. Swift is going to find Ryu. A huge dragon in the backline as well, as Raid is going to pop the ultimate and come through. A nice exhaust going to stop that damage, but it's not going to stop T-Gun from falling down as the flash from Radier comes in and takes down Uberbro. A 2-for-1. And the Chiefs, they're the ones that got caught.
And that's the thing, that everyone from Immunity just ran to the high hills the moment they saw the cavalry coming through, the moment the On the Hunt Radier came through. And Uberbro was just left to die. There was no frontline for him. There was no supportive ultimates left for him, as Ryu died with the ultimate available. And the rotations will continue. This is going to be the first inner turret after already DPSing down the top one so low. And the Chiefs are just stacking advantages everywhere.
Yeah, stacking them up most definitely. It is going to be Ryu completing that 40% CDR, but that was just such incredible reaction speed from the Chiefs. As soon as Spooks got caught, everyone collapses at the same time, and then Swiper in from the backside with that ultimate, and let's see it again.
So remember, this is Immunity picking on Spooks. They DPS him down. He ends up using his flash when he comes down from the ultimate. Ryu tries to come and help the fight, but actually dies without using his ultimate, which is a significant problem. Kog'Maw and Sivir haven't entered the fight, and look how it changes when the Dragon ultimate comes through. And one member dies, and Uber is left by himself. Cheese and Zahi, they're supposed to be the frontliners. They're not interested in being a frontline for the Kog'Maw, and the Kog'Maw dies for free.
Yeah, and another wall in the mid lane here as well as Swiffer continues to farm out these waves. He's got a 12 CS advantage now after he had an awful laning phase, you have to say.
I mean, 134 to 143, that's probably what we would expect in this lane. So Cheese has probably overperformed in terms of CS, but it feels like this late game stage is never going to come as suddenly there are a lot of members looking for Cheese.
Yeah, Cheese, he doesn't have the Zhonya's available just yet. The Ravenous blocks up, but there's too much damage from the Chiefs as Spooks gets never moved, but not going to happen this time. Swiffer actually going to dodge out of the way of the Aqua Prism, but he's still taking a lot of damage here. Flash Frost not going to find anyone, and he makes it to the safety of his turret. And the bird, I believe, still had the egg.
And Chiefs, you have to also notice from the immunity side, they're basically completely magic damage based at this point. Kog'Maw's only going for the poke build of the Trinity Force, at least in the early stages. Will build up to more AD, but almost exclusively magic damage, which means the Spirit Visage that's already come through from Shyvana is going to do so much work. And Aegis, you have to think on the way from Spooks with the Ruby Crystal, now turned into a Kindle Gem. And just the startings of the magic just stacking coming through. The Kog'Maw's been well held, 0-3-0. The physical damage is going to be significantly delayed. And the huge dragon that we talked about in Champion Select, it's almost here.
Yeah, it's coming very quickly as Swiper. We'll see what he does decide to build up next. There's a very curious longsword there, and we'll see whether he decides to pick up some form of damage item, maybe like a Blade of the Ruined King, just so that he can be a damage threat in these fights as well.
I mean, a lot of top laners these days maybe even look to the Phage for an even cheaper option for a bit of relevant stats. The Rage passive does so much work, helps with your stickiness. The Blade of the Ruined King, I think, is the ideal build, but of course, Phage, it's a lot cheaper. So Phage or Blade of the Ruined King, those are kind of my considerations for a one-item damage build on Swipe. But just depends how tanky he feels it needs to be. And at this point, Armor, no real rush to build it.
Yeah, it doesn't really need to worry about getting that Randuin's, getting that Thornmail very quickly at all. Does have that Cloth Armor just hanging out, because he felt like having it. Zahir going to clear out this Gromp. This Swiper continues to just be a menace, pushing these waves out constantly. And the rest of the Chiefs, they're looking to pick on Cheese yet again here in the mid lane as he's taking a lot of damage. But Spooks doesn't quite have his friends available just yet.
And the consideration for Chiefs, they've got a lot of aggressive wards down. They need to push their wards a little bit more aggressively. I'd say it's kind of an interesting scenario where Chiefs wards are probably too defensive and Immunity's wards are too offensive. They need defensive wards down because walking in their jungle at this point, as you can see from the minimap, is a very scary thing to do. They have these wards towards the enemy red buff. They're not going anywhere near that stage at this point. There's almost a vertical line across this minimap diagonally around their inner turret. That's the only safe area for Immunity to go and get farm. And that's why the Kog'Maw, he's kind of smarting for CS. Suddenly a 40 CS advantage for Radiant.
Yeah, and Spooks just has run of the jungle here as well. You can see now that Rosie's made a sweep there of that bottom side, so many wards have been put down by this Janna. And Rosie in that last fight, we didn't even mention his Monsoon separating everyone out in such a beautiful way. And this Janna pick, very intelligent, especially considering the ban of that Morgana. No Black Shield to stop that CC from coming through. So as soon as a Swain runs in, what's he going to do?
What's he going to do is a good mention. It's not going to be the Zhonya's anytime soon. You can tell from the blasting one, the Merc Treads. The double sight zone, because Elise has also picked up a sight zone. It's being put to good use. The aggressive wards are down. Defensive vision needs to come through, specifically some pink wards, because there are not many safe places for Immunity to farm on this map.
Yeah, precisely. Radiant looking to pick up that Phantom Dancer. Only needs another 520 gold for that one. Has cleared out the Wolves here as well, but the Dragon is what they're looking at this stage. 22 minutes into the game. It is going to be the first here for the Chiefs. Immunity have managed to pick up their first couple, but the Chiefs with complete control of this map now. Vision is solely theirs from halfway through the Immunity jungle. And they are going to pick up their first. So that 6% stats, very important here. Swift is going to continue farming, and he's just leaps and bounds ahead now.
And one of the big reasons they need these aggressive wards is you look down the Chiefs lineup. In terms of ranged auto attackers, they have Anivia, not the best auto attack animation, as we all know. And Siva, who does a lot of turret damage, but only has 500 range. So their siege is actually desperately poor. Elise can also go into range form and help, but in general, sieging is not their forte. They want to dive, they want a team fight, or they want to out-rotate. So if you have all these aggressive wards down, you can really start prepping your minion wave, trying to follow them and try to get those outer turrets, because against a Kog'Maw comp, what is a pseudo Juggernaut comp, you need to break the base early. There's still a lot of hope for Immunity if they can keep this kind of small disadvantage, well, you say small, it's 6,000 gold. If they can keep it at 6,000 for another 20 minutes, get the Kog'Maw 3-4 item, get Cheese towards his Zhonya's, team fights could actually be in the advantage of Immunity. They have a very strong comp they've put together. They just need to minimize the disadvantage they're at and just farm up. And it's on the Chiefs to start taking away big advantages like the Baron, breaking the base for Chiefs to really kind of put this game into high gear. Because for now, Immunity won't be happy, but they'll be content if they can find places to farm.
Yeah, nice knock-up to come through here from the Howling Gale, and the Boomerang doing a whole lot of work here as well. Spook steals away the blue buff that Immunity were trying so hard to get. Swiffer would have liked it, but he wasn't there in time, and it is going to be the Chiefs stealing that one away. Swiper, as you can see in that bottom side of the map, does almost have the Blade of the Ruin King completed, and I very much like this considering the fact that Swiper decided to go with that Spirit Visage, because of course doesn't synergize so well as a Shyvana. You don't have very many sort of health building abilities, but now with the lifesteal, going to get a whole lot more of that health back for each auto attack.
It's a situational item. I think that Swiper reads games better than a lot of players in the OPL, and he understands the physical damage. It's delayed. There's not even a bilge water completed after the Trinity plus Ubro who has to flash. The physical damage is at least 10 minutes away. So in that time, build a Blade of the Ruin King, ensure that Lulu can't even stand up to you in a split push, and take away one lane of Sway farm, one final lane you'd have to think, given it's just the 2 teleport users in bottom, away, because Immunity, their only way to win is to get farm onto their carry, so just starve them of any possible farm. They've done the wards, the Blade of the Ruin King is just another step towards there being no safe place for Immunity.
Yeah, the sticky Shyvana, like you were talking about. Cheese trying desperately to clear out this wave in time. Immunity waiting in the wings here, trying to catch Swiffer unaware. The Cocoon not going to find Cheese here as well. So not going to be baited into that one. You can see now Sivir with a 50 CS advantage in the mid lane as well. Has been clawed back a little bit to that 30 mark here from Cheese. He's been doing well trying to farm this one up. Now has the Abyssal Scepter available as well. So Spooks and Swiffer and a lot of Swiper's damage going to be negated here for this Swain. But you're looking at Radier, who now has a Vampiric Scepter on top of his first 2 items in that Phantom Dancer and Infinity Edge. And this Sivir, those ricochets going through the team are going to start really hurting.
Hey, look. Chiefs will, at this point, win a team fight. You can just foresee a spot where Swain and Kog'Maw hit high gear that the Chiefs won't be able to stand up to them in a team fight. That's why, at this point, Immunity are happy to lose the minimum. We've mentioned it a couple of times. They already picked up 2 dragons, and honestly, those dragons, what they do in this game is the 5th dragon is one of the best ways to break the base against a Protect the Kog'Maw comp, is to have the 5 dragons. But the 5 dragons is going to be so much later, because the first one came at, what, 22 minutes into the game? You know, you add optimistically 24 minutes to that time, 6, 12, 18, 24, that'll be the next 4 dragons. That's still 46 minutes into the game. 46 minutes, even if they're getting limited farm, Uberbro and Cheese will be very damage relevant by that point. So those 2 dragons are doing so much more work than just the stats they provide, because they've denied Chiefs a much earlier win condition in the 5 dragons.
Yeah, and is this going to mean that Chiefs probably want to look towards that Baron here potentially earlier on the normal?
That's absolutely the most realistic option for them, because of course Baron will force a team fight. They might think that at this point they're not tanky enough to just take it and shrug off the damage, but Blade of the Ruin King, an excellent item choice coming through from Swiper to do Baron damage. We didn't even consider that. Great in a split push, but if he gets to the point where he can build a bit of health and armor to just completely shrug off the Baron damage, Elise does current health damage, does missing health damage. Blade of the Ruin King means that Shyvana is going to be doing a lot of damage, can of course proc it multiple times with her Q. They have a lot of Baron damage. Radier's no slouch to Baron either.
Swiffer's building a Leandries.
All these things will help considerably at taking the Baron. At the moment, that's their realistic objective, to try and break the base. They'll probably still need to dive, but they're going to try and deny everything. They even want this red.
Yeah, Spook's walking straight through that Aqua Prison here as well, as T-Gun's going to flash away, but it's not going to be enough. Repel going to get Spooks back in range for that one. On the Hunt is available, as there's the wall. Not going to find Uberbro, who of course still doesn't have his flash available. And the Chiefs, the last inner turret, it's going to fall down.
While it's not a huge dragon, it's definitely a scary dragon with all the damage he's putting out. Looking for picks with this Flash Froster Swiffer. Immunity, they cannot let the Chiefs break the base. 7 seconds till Nami comes back. Doesn't actually have the tidal wave, though, and this could be it.
Oh, Ryu's been walled in here as well. Swiper just launches his way under the turret. He might die for it, though, as there's the Blade of the Ruin King. Breaks turret aggro and flashes out there, as well as the burnout. Going to deter Immunity from chasing. I have no idea how Swiper survived that one. That was a bit of an overdive.
But it was an overdive, but it wasn't Atlas, because all he was trying to do was...
But it wasn't.
He was trying to distract them from the turret. That was the big consideration. They didn't want to kill anyone. They just wanted to kill the turret. That's what they need to do, break the base. We talk about it all the time. They're fighting over red. I believe it goes to Kog'Maw, so that's ideal.
Yeah, not too bad. Uberbro going to have that one for the next potential fight to come through. Flash Frost going to get a couple of stuns. As Swiffer locks that one down, now has that Seraph's Embrace transform there as well.
You do not have any wards. There's pinks up, back away from the Drake. It's only a second Drake. It's not imponent. In fact, I take this outer turret for Dragon Trade. It looks like that's what they're going to get.
Yeah, Spooks and Radiant are going to be able to secure this Dragon. It's 2 for 2 now as Rosie unable to clear out that wave.
Get out.
Oh, they need to leave as quickly as possible as Swift is forced to flash out of the way of that Never Move, and Ryu taking so much damage. The Repel to come down here as well, as doesn't quite have the Q, but Radius there with so much available. Spooks doesn't quite manage to land the Cocoon, but the double kill looks easy as you like here for Radio as Uberbro. Oh, that was an interesting place to be. As Spook's going to get caught for a moment, but the easiest cocoon of his life is going to spell the end of T-Gun, and Zahi finds himself the only man standing here for immunity. And the Chiefs, they may have done it. They may have broken the base.
The situational awareness to take that mid-turret, not go for the Dragon, was a good move from immunity, but they needed to understand the situation. They're against a Sivir comp with the On The Hunt. You need to get the hell out of there, or you're going to die. These guys have so many items on you. They're already 10,000 gold ahead. They didn't respect that, and their base is going to be in tatters when they respawn.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a cooking show impression here by the Chiefs. The turret that we have prepared earlier now going to be taken out as well. So that's an inhibitor turret, and another one here for the Chiefs, and they've broken through immunity, now definitely on the ropes. This is a 11,000 gold lead for the Chiefs.
11,000 gold is massive. Immunity a few minutes ago were in a decent spot. They had their inner turrets up most of the case. Their bottom turret was respawning after taking a big burst of damage. But now, the base is broken. This is the best way to beat this combo comps. They didn't even need 5 dragons. The second one was just enough because it baited the overextension from immunity. It was still an overextension because the tidal wave wasn't available, and they just didn't try and evacuate in the right manner. They got caught from the On The Hunt. They're going for a desperate Baron, but desperation, that's the only way to describe it.
Yeah, and Ryu's been locked off from the team here as well. The tidal wave does come through, but the Flash Frost going to lock Cheese into the Baron damage as Spooks is going to come through the Repel. Zahi Arctic Assaulting over that wall. Acro Prison not going to find anyone here as the Chiefs. They might just start off this Baron for themselves.
They have a lot of Baron damage. Swiper is at the point now where he can shrug off most of the damage. Immunity is sticking around, but do they really want to turn around and fight?
Yeah, you can see now with the Leandries completed here as well. A Bloodthirster on top of everything else here for Rady. He has so much flat damage. The Baron's going to fall down. Not even bothering to smite his Spooks, or I think he did, but it just didn't quite do it as Radiant might have just crit for more damage than smite.
And Immunity needed to get back faster. They had to either go in early or get back faster because their base, this double super minion waves pushing, those are going to be Baroned up super minions in no time at all. The backs will come through from Chiefs. They hit some more item timings. The item time is just not there. Not even a Blade of the Ruined King completed for the Kog'Maw, specifically 0-4-0. Juggermaw, doesn't matter what you call it, protect the Kog'Maw. The Kog'Maw's not going to be a factor this game unless we're talking about 50, 60 minutes. And with the base broken, don't see how that can happen.
Yeah, and Spooks has actually got a Haunting Guise now as well. He's completed that Locket of the Iron Slayer, and he's like, okay, guys, I'm building some damage now. And he's going to have that extra magic penetration. These Noxious Bites going to be doing some work.
That's what happens, Atlas, when you never have to build armor. You look down this lineup, Lulu, purely magic damage. Sejuani's purely magic damage. Nami and Swain all magic damage, and Kog'Maw, the base abilities, the one doing the most damage at this point, is the magical damage portion of their kit. There's no rush to build armor. Build a bit of damage and kill the Kog'Maw faster.
Speaking of killing the Kog'Maw, he gets caught there by the Cocoon. This last inhibitor turret already down to half health as these minions are trying to be dealt with. Swiper just split pushing happily on the bottom side of the map. Of course, that inhibitor wasn't taken down, but maybe soon will, as the Dragon is available. Polymorph does come through, but Swiper not going to worry about it at all, and he'll take down the second inhibitor of the game as the Chiefs continue the pressure. You can see, my goodness, that's a 7th health on that inhibitor turret already. Cheese going to get locked in under the turret and exploded here. Radiant just going off in these fights. Zahi going to fall down. That's the tower. A kill. Another kill as well here for Spooks as Wild Growth comes through. Doesn't do anything. Double for Radiant. Ryu has to run to the fountain if he can, but it's a casual E from Swiffer, and this is going to be the game for the Chiefs. What a dominating performance.
3 inhibitors down. This will be the game. As you mentioned, massive performance by the Chiefs. You pick a mid to late game team comp against the Chiefs at your own peril because their rotations in the early game has always been their strength. And Immunity, they tried something different. We commend them for that. But for once, the Swain is defeated. And Chiefs, they take a 1-0 lead in this best of 5.
Yeah, it was beautiful play by the Chiefs. And they sort of just reacted to the fact that Immunity pegged the late game. And Chiefs just said, okay, we'll take all of your turrets and you won't be able to do anything. And of course, this game was over before that Kog'Maw had a chance to do anything.
And you look at the Kog'Maw, that's the big situation. You look at Uber, bro, the statistic we gave, it's almost like Immunity had the same notes. 9.1 KDA in wins, 2.7 KDA in losses, and 0-4-0. Protect the Kog'Maw, Juggermaw, whichever description you want to throw on. It didn't work this game. So we'll jump into a replay just to see a bit of what the Chiefs were able to put together. So this replay comes through, and this is the overextension around mid. So they started to move Immunity as a team towards the Dragon and quickly realized, crap, we don't have any wards here. We cannot face check ping wards against Anivia Flash Frost, against Spook Stun. Let's just go mid, and that's a good adaptation. The one thing you have to respect is Radia's Ultimate, which isn't available just yet. So in this case, hindsight being what it is, we could say, okay, good move down the mid. You're going to get an objective and sacrifice only a second dragon. There's no rush to pick up a second dragon. However, in this situation, they were going to start, they had to get away as fast as possible. So we'll roll the tape. The dragon's already died. They're overstaying it this way. See, they're doing damage to Rosie. No Uber, bro. You need to get the hell out of there. You can see why, because in the back line, Swiffer comes through with some CC. Radius just waiting for his ultimate to activate. He's actually going to flash aggressively to get the exit kill. The On the Hunt wasn't available at this one, not even used yet. They used it right at the end to pick up the kill on Cheese. They just didn't have the items to be able to fight. They were already 10,000 gold down at this point. Uberbo's stuck at the front of the fight. I mean, if it was Juggermaw and the Lulu was alive, maybe that was the right situation. But it's just picks upon picks because they were so far ahead at this point. And look, if they moved away at first, if the first thing they did after they did that dragon was to completely go in opposite direction, scatter, maybe one person dies, and then it's a second dragon for an outer turret that they had no other way to get.
Yeah.
Decent trade, but in that situation, didn't work out.
Yeah, and Immunity not quite able to store that one out. But it is, of course, a best-of-5 series, ladies and gentlemen. There is going to be more games to come. We'll see whether Immunity can pull it back out. But we are going to head out to Pastry Time, who's waiting outside.
Thank you very much, Alice. I'm here with Chuffer this time, of course, the support from the Dials. Chuffer, how you feeling, man?
I'm pretty good.
Pretty good? How you feeling after yesterday, of course? Sitting in the finals.
Yeah, it's good to see that all our work coming through and we finally got somewhere.
Awesome. Well, you played great, man. So we'll get into this game now as well. First of all, go down to your lane, of course, the bottom lane. We'll start with the supports. What do you think of just the duo lanes in general? Kog'Maw Nami versus Janna Sivir.
Well, Kog'Maw Nami has always been a really, really strong lane. That's like it's always been shown on that. And I haven't seen Nami recently, but she's always been a really strong champion. And Kog'Maw Nami, I think it's a lot stronger lane than Sivir Janna. So like you could see that in the game when Chiefs were scared of that lane and sent Sivir Janna top lane.
Yep, so the lane swap did happen there, but you were kind of mentioning before that sort of favors the Kog'Maw either way, because he's just going to get farm, right?
Yeah, so Kog'Maw Nami do win that lane, so that forced them to go top. And lane swaps really slow down the game, which works in favor of the Juggermaw comp, because obviously when they get to the mid to lane game, they're going to close out fights. Kog'Maw's going to be really strong.
Yep, and it's a funny thing, Immunity had the swap, everything was going well, early game's looking good, get some dragons, get some kills. What happened in the mid-game, though? Because it kind of went downhill from there.
Well, Chiefs started grouping up a lot earlier. They were playing rotations really, really well. I don't think Immunity were really mindful of like unwarded brushes and where the enemy are, especially if they don't have wards in that area. And you can see that from Kog'Maw getting caught in bot lane several times because he wasn't wary of at least being in a brush. And you could see after them taking bot tower around like mid game, them rotating to mid and killing Cheese, and he should have known that coming because he saw them all killing bot lane. And all they needed to do was play that safe, not die mid game. Slowly scale into the late game and then close the game out.
Yeah, we saw some pretty big mid-game team fights or skirmishes from the Chiefs as well. I mean, it looked like they had some good moments catching out Spooks for a kill, but how do you think that all went wrong? Because the Chiefs just won every single fight from the mid-game.
They catch Spooks, that was quite apparent. But they used Sejuani ult and Nami ult, and there was like all their damage was gone from that point. And then they chased way too far into Anivia, who had complete control of that choke point. And that just eventually led to the loss of all of Immunity's team members.
Yep.
From there, it just came downhill from there.
Yep, awesome stuff. So a great showing there in the game one for Chiefs. But, of course, we do have another game coming up. Don't go too far. We'll be back with game 2 after a quick break.